What's going on, guys? My name is Sami Ahmed, and I am the founder and CEO of ScalarResults.com, which is an agency that's helped over 200 agents over the past 2.5 years just absolutely skyrocket their production. In addition to that, I also run a real estate team both in the provinces of British Columbia and Ontario. And in today's video, I wanted to talk to you about the 17 business lessons that I wish I had learned earlier. So let's get started. Let's dive right in. The first lesson that I want to talk to you about is a concept called MSF. Okay, so MSF stands for marketing first, sales second, and finally fulfillment. Now, this concept is applicable across all business verticals. Just last week, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine who's looking to start his plastic export business and bring stuff from his home country into Canada, right? So a completely different vertical than real estate or coaching or any of that stuff. But this principle was 1000% applicable. And so when we talk about this in more of a real estate fashion, let me just give you an example. So for example, if you are a real estate agent that's now looking to go towards listings as opposed to just servicing buyers, right? The first thing that most people do is, okay, well, let me get my stuff together when it comes to a listing presentation deck. Let me get my scripts together. Let me get my assets and branding and marketing and website and this and this and that. The challenge with that is the fact that you're focusing too much on the fulfillment. You haven't marketed yourself. You haven't made a single post or an ad or outreach of any sort telling the public that you are now focusing on being a listing agent, right? So you haven't created any opportunities for yourself. So that's the first thing. The second thing is you haven't really sold to anyone. You haven't gone on listing presentations. You don't even have maybe a listing in hand, right? Yet you're so infatuated with the focus around perfecting your assets, we don't really have anyone to talk to. Think about it from the perspective of developers, right? So developers that put up new construction projects, they are selling you renderings, right? They're selling you a piece of paper. They don't have the building built. They don't even have funding for the building, right? They're just selling you that contract. And when they have enough deposits collected, then they go ahead and get the funding and deliver that final fulfilled product. So if you are in any stage of business where you want to go after something new, test it. For example, for our coaching business, our consulting business, ScalarResults.com, for the first 4 clients that we sold to, we didn't even have a product built. We didn't know what that was going to look like, right? We sold it to them. We bought a little bit of time. And then we went back and started working on our portal and the CRM and the assets and the videos and the training content, all that kind of stuff. Because again, we didn't want to invest in the growth and start up a business if we didn't know whether or not it's going to work, right? So that's why MSF, marketing first, sales second, and fulfillment at the very last. The second thing, revenue is king. This is a concept that was taught to me by my sales job, my first and only ever job at Best Buy, where I went from selling laptops as a part-timer up to, becoming a senior manager at a very young age. And one of the things that they really drove into us at all times is revenue is king, meaning revenue is what fixes all problems. For you guys, that's deals, that's commission, right? Commission that's in the bank account. So the thing is, this is more applicable to now people who are looking to scale and grow their business. When we look to do that, the first thing that really comes into our minds is, well, we got to automate all our processes. We got to put together SOPs and build out what amazing looks like. But the reality is, if you're so focused on building out the structure of what your, let's say, client journey is supposed to look like, then you'll never get the opportunity to actually onboard your first hire, to hire an admin, for example. The reality is there's people out there that are a lot better on the operations side of the business. And so the moment that you put on the operations hat and you put away the sales hat as a founder, as a CEO, that's when things start to go into the ground, right? So revenue will always be king, even if you have a team of, let's say, 20 agents, right? Or if you have a business that's doing over $1 million. You as the founder and CEO, you do not wear the operations or fulfillment hat. You hire people for that. So always wear that sales hat because revenue is always king. It fixes all problems. The third is copywriting. So this is something that I didn't understand for a very long time. A lot of people talk to me about, okay, you got to have your own copies. And let me put this in terms of, real estate agent. How would that look like for you guys? So for example, a choice between using ChatGPT for the description of your listing versus actually sitting down and thinking about putting yourself in the shoes of that prospective buyer. What are they looking for in this property? What are they looking at from the community standpoint? Like, what are some of the buzzwords that are going to drive them to even click on booking that appointment or calling their agent to book an appointment over the weekend? The copy is always something that you keep in-house, something that you take very seriously, okay? Because the moment you start delegating the copyright of your business, irrespective of what that business is, the messaging gets lost. Right? You are your service offering. You are your product. You've built it from the ground level. So how is it fair for you to delegate that task out to someone else? I personally think that copywriting is the number one revenue producing activity in your business. It must be kept in-house. Okay? So and another example I can give you on the coaching side of things, like I can go ahead and hire someone to build out the most beautiful funnel, right? I tell them what niche, what vertical, all those sort of things. And the person is going to use their own life lessons and perspectives and experiences to build out that verbiage for me. That copy is going to be in their words. And it doesn't matter even if they're like an author, right? That they really know what they're doing. The challenge will become that the people that you're trying to go after, they want to listen from you specifically. So if someone else does your copy, it just does not work. It works maybe in the beginning, but it has a negative effect on your business in the long term, okay? So copywriting, keep it in-house. The fourth lesson that I learned is just the necessity behind dialing in your avatar, okay? What I mean by avatar is your ideal client. If you don't have an understanding of your ideal client, what will happen is you'll try to go after just anyone and everyone, right? So, and it happened to me too. In most businesses, like when I started in real estate, I try to go after just every client. Any client and every client, I would be there to service them. And then the same thing in the real estate coaching space. Like I thought every single realtor who's looking to make more money is an ideal client for me. It's not the case. You see, there's this saying called your vibe attracts your tribe, right? So the reality in business is not every single person is going to be your client, nor do you want them to. What you want is someone who is completely in line with your mission, your vision, your values, your principles. You see, it's a lot easier when you service people that you consider to be your friends and when your friends end up becoming your clients, right? Like life and business is just a lot easier when you're working around people who actually value you, they respect you, they take your opinion very seriously. And the only way to make that happen is to look at the people that you've attracted so far. Who is the client that I'm doing business with right now? And how can I dive deeper and just double down on that specific type of a client? So, and that specificity is also very important, meaning the age range, the gender, the geography, the demographic, the financial situation, the stage in life. Like all of those things are very important. And so if you don't have a client avatar figured out around your ideal client, things will get a lot difficult, especially when you start to scale your business. The fifth lesson is not having a business plan. A business plan is absolutely critical. And a business plan, unfortunately, can't be, I want to do 24 deals or I want to hit $1 million in GCI. That is not a business plan. A business plan needs to be very specific. It needs to go into your daily action items. It needs to go into your marketing strategy. It needs to go into the amount of time you prospect, the amount of ends you're going to complete on each year, throughout the year, how many total, not just deals, but the total sales volume, the total GCI, the total average median home price, like specifics around exactly what each week, month, quarter, and year is supposed to look like. If you don't have that knowledge, or if you don't have that prepped out in advance for the entire year, you're always going to be wondering where that next deal is coming out of, right? So imagine a situation in which you have complete clarity around exactly where you're supposed to go, who you're supposed to go after, what is the strategy behind what it is that you're trying to go after, and you have it all planned out before the year even begins, right? It makes your life a lot easier. Number 6 is the touch points and the communication. I wish I had known earlier that communication is probably more important than any other type of interaction with your clients. Like just simple updates and communication. Like for example, in the market over the past couple of years, it's been difficult to move listings, right? Like to sell has been difficult because the market's been very tough. You see, previously, I thought I would only have to reach out to clients when I had something positive to share. What I learned over the years is communication fixes a lot of the problems. So instead of me waiting for that golden nugget of that magical moment to occur, which sometimes never did, what I started to do was to give timely updates to my clients, both for coaching versus real estate, and tell them what the data is showing us, right? So this is what's happened. These are the number of showings. These are the number of requests. This is the feedback from person A, from person B, from realtor A, from realtor B. So when the communication is there, that really is most of the time your client's expectation, right? So communication for me has now been very structured, right? So for us, we are communicating on a weekly basis, both for our real estate clients as well as our realtor clients in the coaching business. And so even if the results are not at par around what they had initially expected, at least they know that we have our full time, energy, and effort dedicated to solving their problem. So for those reasons that are out of our control, they're not going to point fingers at us because we've done our job in communicating to them what's going on. Communication, absolutely pivotal and important. 8th lesson is playing that dominant role. And what I mean by that is not allowing your clients to push you around. You see, when someone hires you, whether it's to be your coach slash mentor or lead generator in real estate, or your a client who's looking to hire you to buy, sell, invest, etc., they understand that they hired you because of your value proposition, because of what they have seen you deliver for other people. So at the same time, if they're telling you something, it doesn't mean that you have to do it. Right? If the buyer is telling you that they have to look at 15 different properties when you know this property that's in front of them is an absolutely steal of a deal and the market's shifting and it's going to go in a direction where they're going to be competing in multiples for that same property, you have to draw the line and play that dominant role and explain to them why it is that they hired you in the first place, right? Why it is that this opportunity may not come around another time. You have to take that role as the advisor, as the expert, because that's what they hired you for. Number 9, as a CEO, what is your focus? Okay, so this is, again, going back to probably my first or second point, which was around revenue, which is, as a CEO, you must drive sales. You mustn't drive operations, okay? Because you can hire for operations. You cannot hire as easily for sales, and even if you do, it is a lot more involved of a process. Think about it. You are your best salesperson in your business. So as you start to grow out your team, your focus on making sure that the sales team is mini yous, right? Like a mini version of you. It requires you to be more involved in sales than anything else in your business. As a CEO, your primary focus is sales. The moment your focus goes away from sales, everything else in your business shatters. Without sales, nothing else in business matters. That is your focus as a CEO. Number 10 business lesson is the sanctity and just the protection of your time. You see, I was very open to networking lunches and coffees and dinners and this and this and that, and like Zoom meetings to just chat and connect. The reality is, when you start doing business at a high level, you will start to run out of time, okay? So your time becomes your biggest asset. And so if you're allowing your time to be used up for a certain activity, you have to identify the opportunity cost, right? What is this conversation going to accomplish for my business? Is it going to strengthen a referral partnership that has proven to give me a lot of business previously? Fantastic. That is a good investment of my time. Is it a brainstorm session around an area of business that I don't certainly need help with right now? Or perhaps it's not that big of a glaring issue? maybe not the best opportunity cost. Maybe it can get tacked away 2 or 3 months down the line for when it makes sense. Right now, it's just too much going on, right? So the reality is you have to start to learn how to say no. You have to learn how to say no. I was watching a video not too long ago with Alex Hermosi, who was on a podcast with this YouTuber. And it took the YouTuber 2.5 years to get the guy on a podcast. Now, I'm not saying to delay your conversation by 2.5 years, but that speaks to me around a business professional who has his priorities locked down, right? Like your schedule should not be penetrable, right? Like your schedule should be in line with, okay, if I'm going to do networking lunches, if I'm going to do just, connection Zoom calls or whatever it is, or getting people on the phone, that is not going to make a direct impact on the growth of my business today, that I have a slot 2.5 weeks from now that is just that miscellaneous free time that I can leverage that activity for. So instead of saying yes to that networking lunch that the person is offering you to go on tomorrow, you're going to delay that conversation by 2.5 weeks. And I know that sounds easier said than done. The moment you get the courage to protect your time and start saying no is the moment you'll start to drive your business in the right direction. Lesson number 11. Do we do virtual? Do we do hybrid? Do we do office? And for me, it's been office. Okay, so the thing is, when you have an office, then not only are you paying lease or mortgage for, not only do you have skin in the game, but it also encourages you to actually show up for the day. For example, I'm not technically in office today. Today is just like a Sunday, so I'm just checking up on some of my stuff, maybe a little bit of content. So I get to show up like this, and I'm totally cool with that. When I'm in an office, I show up 100% presentable Monday to Friday because I know I'm going to be talking to clients that day. I know I'm going to have my team members in office looking at me that day, right? So I have to show up at my highest game possible Monday to Friday without fail, right? I'm not just up top wearing a blazer on a Zoom call where I'm in my boxers and I have my bed, a couple rooms over that I can go crash into in the middle of meetings. That's why, for me anyway, virtual just has not worked. And it's also very difficult to hold your people accountable if everyone is in a virtual setting. Now, mind you, we do have a lot of staff that's in a virtual setting, but their KPIs are completely different. They're either just cold calling all day or they're, working on a project by project thing. When it comes to actual pivotal members of your team, they need to be in that office. They need to be like right next to you so you can give them timely feedback, so you can listen in on their conversations, so you can brainstorm mastermind with them. And that feeling is just not doable when it's completely virtual. Just my opinion. Lesson number 12, referral partnerships. You have to find other people's businesses to get business out of, right? So when it comes to our real estate business, we take referral partnerships very, very heavily, not only with just mortgage brokers, with financial advisors, with lawyers, with family lawyers, with notaries, with insurance brokers, with just every single person that has the opportunity for you to connect with their client to help them for real estate. When it comes to our real estate coaching business, we deal with those same individuals and then we incentivize them to have their realtor partnerships come to us to take advantage of our real estate service. It doesn't matter what type of business, peripheral or lateral that you work in. Referral partnerships are there for you to just get a free increase in business. To give you a real example, instead of you going after just that one prospect, which may convert into 1 or 2 deals, imagine if you could go after one, let's say, financial advisor that has a set of 20 different clients, out of which they can give you maybe 3 to 5 deals that you can do that year. It's the same amount of time required to prospect for that referral partnership, but the outcome is 5x, right? Because you're getting that person to enhance their business in conjunction with you, but also it's enhancing your business. You're putting them to work without necessarily going after each individual person. That's why, irrespective of the type of business, referral partnerships are an absolute must. You need to put aside time every single week to go after your referral partnerships. Lesson number 13, and I should have probably had this as the first lesson, which is diversification. Okay, so you see, with diversification, what happens is when we, let's say, start in real estate and we figured out that we are really good with, let's say, pre-construction and assignment sales. That is our niche. That is where we help most of our clients. And then we do maybe a deal or two that's in that luxury category. And now, that's another thing that we're starting to go after. And it requires a completely new business plan. It requires you wearing two different types of hats. Diversification needs to happen in stages is what I'm trying to drive. So for me, for example, I did not start my coaching business till I had the cup spilling for my real estate business, right? So this is applicable to now if you're, let's say, doing more niches or different type of offers. If your cup isn't spilling, and what that means is if you haven't tapped out fully that particular one thing that you're doing, then if you were to now go into the second, third, fourth, fifth thing, all of those things will get like 20% of your attention. So the results generated of all of those things are going to be 20% of what they actually can be. So that's why you got to go to the very top with that one thing, right? So if you're a solo real estate agent and you know the top solo real estate agent in your area is doing 50 transactions a year, then you need to get to that point before starting to think about establishing a team, right? If you know that you haven't tapped out the market, like in my case, in Canada, we have a little over 200 active or total clients that we've served and a little over 100 active clients right now. It doesn't make sense for us to go into, let's say, the US, right? So obviously in comparison to the US, just the state of Florida has 200,000 realtors, which is equal to the entirety of Canada. But also simultaneously, Toronto Real Estate Board has 80,000 some odd realtors just in one city, just in one real estate board. And I only have 100 plus active clients, right? I don't even have 1,000. So it doesn't make sense for me to go into Florida or to go into New York or to go into LA for that matter. I cannot diversify. And for me, I have had a lot of tough instances where I did decide to diversify. Every single time I thought that I could be doing just one extra thing, just have one extra stream of income or revenue. It's divided all my attention. So then that main thing that's driving revenue, that's driving my livelihood gets impacted. And I've done that time and time again. And the biggest lesson I've learned is you must not diversify until your cup is overflowing with that one thing that you're doing. Number 14, making decisions without data. Okay? You see, sometimes we look at other people and we see strategies that may be working for them and we start to just go gung-ho on those strategies. We just change our plan 1,000%. Everything that's been working for us, we just shove that out of the window, and now this is this new thing that we're going after, okay? So what happens with that is it can be done. Like if you're looking at, let's say, make changes around your marketing or your ads or whatever the case might be, you have to do that based on data. You need to drive decisions based on data. If something is not working for you, or let's say, listing price is the best example of this. You only go to your seller to get the reduction in listing price if you know for a fact that you've done your marketing properly, you've reached out to all the agents, you've taken a look at the feedback, you've done the staging, you've done like 50 other things before you drop that price, right? Because you're leading with data. You don't just go to the client and say, hey, I think we need to drop the price because nothing else is working. No, I think we need to drop the price because we've done everything else. Here's the data to support the fact that we've done everything else. Here's the data to support the fact that your listing is overpriced, and that's why we need to drop it. And that principle, making decisions or initiating conversations with the use of data, is going to save your life. If you do it just based off of a gut feeling, I'm sorry to tell you, you cannot manifest a growth in your business without having the data to support it. That takes me into my next point, which is the shiny object syndrome. And I've referred to Alex Hormozi a few times in this video because I do follow the guy, and I think everyone should follow the guy. And one of the things that he talks about is throughout the day, he'll get his go away moments. Okay, so those are shiny objects. Every time there's a shiny object, that whether it be, okay, maybe I need to redo my website, or maybe I need to go do new headshots, or maybe I need to do X, Y, Z. Go away. And not go away forever. There will be time. But what is the most important thing in business in front of you right now? Do you really need that new headshot? Maybe it's 20 years old. Maybe you need it, but is just like, that flavor of the week that you ran out of things to do, so now you're taking up a new project to go after? You must hit your business fundamentals first before allowing shiny objects to seep in. Okay? Lesson number 16, reinventing the wheel. And this goes back to point number 14 about driving decisions without data. You do not reinvent the wheel. You do not change what's working. Just because you cannot conceptualize it, that is your problem in not doing enough research. Okay? If it is working for someone at a high level, and that is a proven way of doing things, just because you have a different feeling about it doesn't mean you get the privilege to reinvent the wheel, right? So, for example, if I need to go after building, let's say, an electric car, and I know that Elon Musk has a way of being able to build electric cars at scale with the most amount of profitability, I'm not going to go to John Doe who just started this business, right? Or look after his model. I'm going to look at the model that is actually proven to work. And if that model, questions my thought process behind things, I'm going to take it with a grain of salt. Okay, so reinventing the wheel is something that will drive your business downwards. You don't want to perfect something that, and it doesn't even have to do with other people. If there's just an internal system that's working really, really well, just because the next guy is doing something different doesn't mean that you get to just put aside everything that you've worked on, right? If it's working well, don't change it. And the last and final lesson, number 17, your circle, your proximity. And this kind of goes back to that protection of time. You have to be very careful around the people that you choose to spend time with, okay? Your immediate circle is the most important thing. Whether it's your personal life or your business life, it will affect your business. If your personal life has a bunch of people who are not in that same mindset of an entrepreneur, of someone who is resilient, of someone who's going to work a lot to drive their business. If you're a person like me, and yet you have in your personal life a lot of people that are maybe 9-to-5ers, and there's nothing wrong with that, but just in a different lifestyle or mindset, it's going to deter you from being able to grow your business. My friends, some of my best friends, one of my really good friends today sent me a gift, right, of this little book, right? And this book is about building a story brand, clarifying your message so your customers listen. This is around copywriting. And he sent this to me because we were discussing last week copywriting. And so your friends might be sending you, concert tickets or like gift cards, or they might be telling you, hey, dinner and drinks are on me if you come out with me today. Do you really want that person? And maybe you do, and that's totally fine. If that is the type of circle that you want to keep, absolutely stick with that circle. But my point is, if you're trying to do X, Y, Z, and your circle is pointing you towards the complete polar opposite, this is your time to reevaluate who you want to let into that proximity, because your proximity is the byproduct of what you actually end up accomplishing.